Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming. We're still waiting for a couple of candidates to join us, and we understand they are en route, but we also want to try to start as close to on time as we can to hear from everybody. So let's get started with a few housekeeping rules. If you could check and make sure your cell phones are either off or on silent or vibrate, that would be terrific as we get started so nobody gets interrupted. And I'll introduce myself. I'm Scott Micklin. I'm the general manager of KSJE 90.9 FM, the public radio station at San Juan College. It's my pleasure to be here to moderate tonight's forum, truly bipartisan forum. We have Republicans and Democrats on our stage, so this is a very rare occurrence. So thank you, candidates, for coming. We appreciate all of you for taking part in this and in the process. Thank you all. The candidates will start speaking in alphabetical order. That is the order that we decided everyone should start with, and so we'll follow that order. We will switch by one, the candidates, as we go through to answer questions and give your closing statements. So I'll call on each of you at the proper time to give your statements. We will start with 3 minutes for an opening statement, candidates, and I'll ask you questions. You'll have 2 minutes to answer those questions, and then we'll give you another 2 minutes for closing statements. And I think you all are familiar with those rules. Hopefully no surprises tonight for any of you. Audience, we do have a timekeeper. Derek Garcia is sitting right down in the front row. So candidates, please make sure you pay attention to him. Derek's going to be timing your answers. He'll be holding up signs, giving you a minute, 30 seconds, and the dreaded stop sign. So please make sure we can stay on time so I don't have to interrupt you. I hate to do that. So we will try to stay as close to on time as we can. Welcome. Anyone have any questions before we get started? Candidates, everybody all set? Krista? Yes. All right, so we'll shift things just a bit as we wait for one of our candidates to arrive. And we'll start with our magistrate judge candidates, Republicans Eric Cole, Frank Dart, and Gary McDaniel. Gentlemen, are you all set?
Yes, sir.
All right. Alphabetically speaking, Eric Cole, you get to go first. So let's start with your opening statement, please. 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, I'm Eric Cole. I'm the current magistrate judge representing Division 1 in San Juan County. I'd first like to thank the Chamber for hosting this event and especially the Farmington Young Professionals. The Magistrate Court is a court widely known as the People's Court. It's the court where most people have contact with if they come to court first. We're a court of limited jurisdiction. We handle small claims such as landlord-tenant and other small claims other small claims $1,000 to $10,000. We handle traffic tickets, misdemeanor crimes, and we also go on the record holding preliminary hearings for felony cases. We kind of act like a grand jury in that way to determine probable cause in felonies. We don't have, I think it's important not to understand what we don't cover as well. So we don't cover most family type crimes. We don't handle probate, which is a different judgeship, and we don't handle divorce, child custody, some bankruptcy, those types of things we do not handle at the magistrate court level. We also don't handle any juvenile cases except for minor traffic citations. My education and experience are the reasons I believe that I'm the best candidate for this position. I have a master's degree in criminal justice. I was an airline pilot when I first moved to this community in around 2000. I attained the position of jet captain, and I became a federal flight deck officer after September 11th. I was also moved on and was a real estate broker for the for this area in about 2010, and I worked in oil field safety for about 3 years before becoming a law enforcement officer for the Farmington Police Department. When I graduated from the police department, I was valedictorian of my police academy class. I was also qualified as a police instructor and a field training officer. I have a lot of involvement with our community and with the county. I was 2015 alumni for Leadership San Juan and a former president for Sexual Assault Services for Northwest New Mexico. Finally, I was appointed by Governor Martinez in December, and I've been on the bench for 4 months. And I think that by the time my term is over, I'll have more experience as a magistrate judge than any of my competition. So I'd appreciate your vote for magistrate judge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Frank Dart, let's hear from you, please.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. My name is Frank Dart. I'm running for Magistrate Judge Division 1. My two opponents are seated next to me here, and I have great respect for both of them. I'm here to tell you about myself and not necessarily about what they have or don't have. I've been in public service most of my adult life, starting out with working with abused children as a child advocate still while I was in high school. I went on to serve my country in the United States Marine Corps before coming out here to New Mexico, where I tested at the Farmington Police Department and was hired. And I served this community for 18 years as a Farmington police officer. I served most of that time, or the latter half of that time, chasing down child predators. During the course of my work as a law enforcement officer, I have literally prepared and documented thousands of probable cause statements, search warrants, and arrest warrants. Mr. Cole covered a lot about what the magistrate court does, which I appreciate him getting the lower letter on me so I don't have to go back through all that for you guys. But one of the main and most important things that the magistrate court does is review whether or not law enforcement has developed probable cause to bring criminal charges against someone. The magistrate court is the first process of basically the state court system. Every municipality in San Juan County has their own municipal court, and they enforce their own ordinances. The judgeship that we are seeking to be part of handles all of the state offenses that happen in the unincorporated areas of San Juan County. They are also the first step of the process for anyone charged with a felony crime. In the state of New Mexico, anyone charged with a felony crime is afforded the opportunity to have a probable cause hearing where a judge determines is there enough evidence for the charges against them and for them to go to district court to face trial. Folks, I determined several years ago that at some point I would be running for this position. I was walking into the magistrate court, and the prosecutor told me, you know, Frank, your victim's going to get torn up today on the stand. And it was a very shocking, odd kind of thing that the prosecutor said to me. I thought, well, I know that many times victims and witnesses do have a hard time because they get asked a lot of hard questions. During the course of the hearing, the defense attorney in the case, who was a very imposing individual, went over and stood near the witness stand and hovered over this 11-year-old victim who was a victim of sexual abuse. Now, there's proper etiquette that has to take place in our magistrate courts, and we have to have somebody that's strong enough to enforce that etiquette. The defense attorney was supposed to be told to return to their podium and not hover over that child victim and be an imposing figure that might interrupt their testimony. I decided then, folks, that I was going to run for magistrate judge. I have the experience to do this job, and I hope that you'll consider me for your vote. Magistrate Judge Division 1. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gary McDaniel, please.
Yes, sir. I'm Gary McDaniel, and it's a pleasure and honor to be here today. I thank the young professionals in the Farmington Chamber of Commerce for having us. I'd like to start out by saying that I'm from here. Most of you know me, or some of you know me. My ancestors, my great-great-grandparents were pioneers here, so I have a vested interest in this community, and I care what goes on. I think it's been pretty well established that all of us, at least in my race, are conservative Christians, so As far as God goes, I rely on God for my everyday life, not just in the judge community when I'm on the bench. But he plays a very big part in my decision-making. As far as qualifications go, I knew what I wanted to do early on. I was able to get a bachelor's degree from New Mexico State University in police science. I did 33 years here in San Juan County in law enforcement. Most recently, I retired with the sheriff's office here, and I've been an alternate municipal judge in Aztec. I've been a magistrate judge here, and I've done a lot of different things in my lifetime, which helps judges in their decision-making. Namely, I was teaching school on the high school level. I taught civics and street law. I've been in the oil and gas industry. I run a farm and ranch. A lot of these things come in handy when you're dealing with decision-making on the bench. So I have a lot of life's experiences to draw from. Thank you for your vote, and I appreciate being here. I could go over what a magistrate does. Magistrates are the most common point of contact between the public and the judicial branch of government. So it's basically the people's court, and it's been explained what the magistrates do. It's a very, very busy court. So thank you again, and I'll save you the explanation of what we do. I think that's been covered pretty much, but thank you again.
All right, thank you all very much. Those are our three candidates running for magistrate judge. And we'll start then with the questions. And audience, I should let you know the questions were gathered from posts on social media. They were reviewed by Farmington Young Professionals and then provided to our candidates before tonight's forum. So first question, and Mr. Dart, you're going to start with your answer to this question, then we'll go to the rest of the candidates to follow you. Question is, what challenges is the state court system facing? Do any of these challenges affect the residents of San Juan County?
One of the biggest challenges that the state court system is facing at this time is a change in the bonding procedures in terms of how an individual that is charged with a crime is able to bond out of jail or not bond out. The higher courts have made some recent rulings that dramatically change the way the bonding process occurs, and in many ways to great detriment to the overall system and to individuals as well. And what has happened prior to these recent decisions, an individual, if they were charged with a crime, there was a specific dollar value bond amount in which they had to pay in order to be released from custody pending trial. That has since changed to a more daunting process where there's literally like a page and a half or 2 pages of questionnaires in which the court must review in order to determine whether or not the bond amount for a particular individual is appropriate. Prior to this, an individual knew what the amount was. Everybody knew what the amount was. It was a set amount. It was standard and fair. Now we have instances where people are staying in jail longer that maybe shouldn't have to because they also have to go before the judge in order to find out what that bond amount is going to be. While there was some good intent in making these changes, overall, it means some people stay in jail longer than they need to. Some people don't have to pay a bond where they maybe should, and other people are paying bonds where they maybe shouldn't because of this overall system change. It is a change that needs to be corrected legislatively. I hope the legislators will take a look at this issue because it is becoming a real problem with the court system. Thank you.
Gary McDaniel, same question.
Yes, sir. I do agree with Frank that we've got to have some changes. Something has to be done differently. The catch and release, so-called catch and release rule really needs to be looked at. I think if there are legislators in here that you can talk to, I think that that's a good idea. The old bond schedule seemed to work pretty well when we did it that way, but now it just doesn't seem to be working. I think it's a danger to the community and law enforcement when we have the people that are screened and let out when probably they shouldn't be out. It doesn't make any sense when you have, say, a person is charged with a fairly big degree of felony and he gets out on a $500 cash bond. It just doesn't seem right. So I think something needs to be change if we could in that. We could also talk about the heavy caseload. The caseload is tremendous, and some of this is probably due to the funding. I think if we had better funding, we would have a better court system. Repeat offenders, we could go into repeat offenders. Repeat offenders are a problem. They need to be dealt with a little bit more, little more seriousness, a little harsher punishment than a lot of people. So there's a lot of things that a magistrate has to weigh. I don't know what else we can talk about. There's so many things, but those are the three things. I think if I had to categorize them, I'd say the catch and release rule is probably the one big thing that we need to try to work on.
Thank you very much. Eric Cole, same question, please.
So I agree with both Mr. Dart and Mr. McDaniel that catch and release, or what's formerly known as pretrial detention, is a problem that needs to be fixed. However, I guess I'll summarize that as trying to use my time wisely, because I've got a few other things I'd like to talk about. That pretrial detention was started with case law that began in 1951 and ended, or is continuing through the Supreme Court of New Mexico even this year. But it was meant to keep repeat offenders and dangerous criminals in jail and not hold people that could not afford a bond to stay in jail. And that's why bonds that are already set for certain crimes don't work. So my solution to that is to make the magistrate court a court. We already are a court of record for some things like pretrial or for preliminary hearings. So it wouldn't be a far-fetched thing to ask for the magistrate court to be able to hear cases on the record for pretrial detention. My daughters could tell you who's dangerous in this community, and so I think that these fine gentlemen or myself could easily figure out who's dangerous in our community and who's not, and set an appropriate bond. Quickly, before I run out of time, I think that court security in our area needs to be enhanced, and this does affect San Juan County. There's no bailiff, there's no metal detector, there's nothing for the magistrate courts. Secondly, I think that jury trials could be more efficient. We, in one case that I researched today, 232 jurors for 6 jury trials. I'm sorry, I'm out of time. I have a lot more to say, and I'd be happy to answer that after the forum.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Next question, and Mr. McDaniel, you're going to answer first for us with this question, and that is, how can local law enforcement and the magistrate courts work together to improve the safety of local residents?
Did you say me, Scott?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Okay. That's a very important question that I like this. The magistrate court has to be independent of law enforcement, because the duty under the Constitution is so involved with making certain that law enforcement respects the rights of citizens in the way it conducts its business. So having said that, as an officer with a lot of time here, I think it's very important to know how that works. And there's 2 things I think that a magistrate can do to make certain that these procedures come to fruition, and it's involving the filing of cases, that they're done properly. Maybe getting witnesses to court, and that's a big problem a lot of times, is getting witnesses to court, and keeping the records updated on some of the things like if a person's charged with maybe driving on revocation, how many DWIs he's had. We need correct records. So that's some big things that the officers consider in making their charging decisions. What degree of DWI this is. We've got to have correct court records for this to happen. And the second thing is to make sure law enforcement understands why something went wrong, if it does, and there has enough explanation behind it to fashion a change in procedure or practice that avoids that problem in the future. So it's kind of a win-win situation and a learning type of thing. I don't always side with the cops. I'm a cop at heart. I love law enforcement, I know what it takes to prove a case, but you got to prove the case. So I don't always side with the cops. You have to be fair and impartial. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eric Cole, your answer, please.
The justice system in our community is comprised of police, courts, corrections, communications, as in 911, and other court programs. The police are the enforcement, and they serve the immediate function of public safety. They're a part of the executive branch. The court is a part of the judicial branch, and its function is to provide fair and impartial justice. One part that's missing in this question is the legislative branch, who makes the laws. And we have local bodies that make the laws, and we have state bodies that make the laws, right? So I believe our cooperation is essential to maintain a safe community. Police do their part by removing the alleged criminals, as well as providing thorough investigations, as Mr. McDaniel said. Judges need to be available to determine arrest and search warrants. Judges adjudicate, and if found guilty, determine if the offender can be deterred by future offenses by sometimes imposing a fine, a judgment of taking classes or counseling, or if they're too dangerous to be in our society, then jail. So we serve different functions, but our communication and cooperation with different branches leads to improved safety for our community.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dart, your answer, please.
Thank you. Everyone wants to know why somebody that's committed a crime is running around the street. Everyone wants to know why there isn't justice. And we are in a system of men and women. Unfortunately, in that kind of system, there are going to be mistakes that happen. And sometimes there are going to be people that are charged with crimes that should not be charged with crimes. Sometimes there are going to be people who are guilty of crimes that don't get justice. There's no perfect solution or perfect fix to that. I've been in this community for 25 years, this legal community of ours, in one way, shape, or form. And one of the things that I've seen, as long as I've been here almost from day one, is that there is very little follow-through on what the problems are in individual situations or cases. Now, we can't figure that out from reading the newspaper, because the newspaper only tells one part of the story. But law enforcement and judges and prosecutors know the answers to those issues. What's missing in the equation is that we're not working together to try and fix those solutions. So when those mistakes happen, they're circumvented from happening again in the future. Our leadership in law enforcement, the judicial system, the legislative system, needs to pay attention to what happens to cases and why there are problems, and figure out solutions and resolutions, how to fix those problems so they don't keep happening over and over. So you folks aren't sitting out there reading the paper and saying, why is this happening again? Thank you.
Thank you all very much. It's now time for our closing statements from our candidates for Magistrate Judge. You will have 2 minutes. And please, if you could, include what your mission statement for the Magistrate Judge office would be if elected. We'll start again at the beginning. Eric Cole, you could start.
So I'll begin with my mission statement. And since I am assigned to the Aztec Magistrate Court, I'll start with that. So the Aztec Magistrate Court is committed to providing fair, impartial, and efficient justice while collaborating with our justice partners to ensure a safe community. I think that my experience and my education and all of my life experience is culminated in that mission statement and makes me who I am. I think that my different types of jobs, my different types of interactions with people has made me a very well-rounded person where I understand people from not only a law enforcement perspective, but also a perspective of other jobs like the oil field, like being in the airline industry, et cetera. And I think that those experiences help me be a good judge, help me understand where people are coming from, and help me give them the best service that I can in the justice that I can provide. So I guess I'll just leave it with that. I'd appreciate your vote for Division I Magistrate Judge. I'm Eric Cole. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dart.
Thank you. As a law enforcement officer, I've received gift baskets from victims whose cases I helped to solve. On the other hand, I've received thank you letters from criminal defendants thanking me for bringing them to justice. How I'm able to do this is how I treat people. And I treat people as I would want to be treated in whatever position or role I am in my life. As a judge, you need to treat each individual, whether it's a juror, a criminal defendant, or a victim, as you would have your own family treated in the courtroom. This is something often missing in the courtroom. It will not be missing in my courtroom. I love public service. I love serving my community. It's what I've done most of my life, and that is why I'm running for Magistrate Judge Division I again, because I want to continue serving my community, continue trying to make this place a better place for all of us, to continue solving the problems within our justice system. What I can tell you on a basic level as a magistrate judge, my mission is to be fair and just. I will not be perfect. I'm certain I will make mistakes. But I will own those mistakes and I will fix them. And I will do everything I can to make our system run efficiently and fluidly and fair and just for everyone. One of the things that I intend to do if elected magistrate judge is modernize our magistrate court justice system. In today's age, it's time to be doing things online, filing documents online, downloading documents online. We still have people going all over our community, driving back and forth, filing these documents, when at this stage in the game, we're well beyond that, technologically speaking. So I would like to modernize our court system in addition to the basic function of being fair and just and meting out our justice here in San Juan County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gary McDaniel.
Well, a couple of slogans of mine are justice for all and trust everyone but brand your calves, which is kind of Reagan-esque, like trust but verify. But I guess that's not really a mission statement. My mission statement would be to be fair and impartial judge on the bench. I practice the golden rule. I did 33 years here in law enforcement. I probably wouldn't have lasted that long without loving people and liking people and trying to improve their lives. I'll do what I can as a judge to improve the situation, whatever that takes. I'd like to talk to you about two things, accountability and learning. Accountability is very important. People need to be held accountable. I'm not a man without compassion. Sometimes people need a little bit of compassion, especially maybe on a first-time minor traffic citation. It needs to be a memorable, positive experience. And I don't know what the odds are of a person going through their lifetime without getting in front of a judge. I tell people I'm pretty good at math 70% of the time, the other 40% I'm not. But without, with this in mind, I think that the first time you need to have a positive experience with a judge. Learning, people learn differently. Sometimes people need to be in jail, sometimes not. You're going to have to weigh things like prior offenses and different things like that. So we all learn differently. So we have different methods of learning differently. I've said for a long time that we have lost the art of conversation. If we can get people talking, I think before a case, or even if it's a case that's already scheduled, if they will go out in the lobby and maybe have a discussion, come back and give me what they've decided on, it helps. It will help some of the caseload and alleviate some of the caseload in the court system. So we've lost the art of conversation. We've got to get people talking. When I was a kid, you didn't call the law nothing short of murder, and you knew who your neighbors were. People talk to one another. They work things out. We've become a litigious society. And I think I've run out of time, but thank you for your vote. I appreciate it, and thank you again for your support.
Thank you all very, very much. Let's have a round of applause for all of our candidates running for magistrate judge who are here with us tonight. We will move some microphones to our next set of candidates, the probate judge candidates. And you three can all relax, judge candidates. Yes. All right. Just in time. It's time to hear from our candidates for probate judge. Again, candidates, you'll have 3 minutes for your opening statements and then 2 minutes to answer the questions that I have for you this evening. We'll go alphabetically again. So Stacy Beal, I'm coming to you first with your opening statement. And for all three of you, please include what you believe a probate judge is responsible for and what makes you qualified for the position in your opening statement. 3 minutes.
All right, thank you, Scott. My name is Stacy Beal, and I have 3 minutes or less to assure you that I'm the best candidate here for probate judge. I would like to thank first the young professionals for putting this together, because we all know that that was a lot of hard work, so thank you very much. I have over 30 years' experience in the legal field. Currently, I serve as Judge Pro Tem at the Municipal Court and have an insurance office. I also served as a magistrate judge for almost 6 years, 15 years at district court, where we handled complex probate cases, and 3 years at the district attorney's office. While serving as a magistrate judge, I was a cadre instructor at the Judicial Education Center at the University of New Mexico School of Law, where I developed the curriculum and instructed classes for the other magistrate judges. I was also appointed by the Supreme Court as a mentor judge to counsel and train judges across the state. I've served on many boards and committees throughout the years. The most recent was with I served as the secretary for the San Juan Republican Women. I was president and treasurer for the San Juan Rotary. I was on the board of directors for the Boys and Girls Club, board of directors for Halverson House, and the list goes on. I've always felt that it was very important to serve the community and be a volunteer. Now, these two gentlemen are going to try to convince you that they're a better candidate than I am because they have law degrees. And I would like to point out today that we have two excellent sheriff's candidates here. No law degrees, none required, don't have one. We have 3 very capable candidates for magistrate judges, don't have law degrees, don't need one. In fact, none of the judges serving as magistrate or municipal judges in the county have a law degree, don't need one. You could search the state of New Mexico and it would be hard to find a judge serving in this capacity that has a law degree, don't need one. I have well over 30 years of experience. I helped train the probate judges around the state. I was entrusted to serve as a mentor judge, and my experience is what qualifies me for this job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, let's hear from Gary Risley.
Well, good evening, and thank you for having us here this evening. And my name is Gary Risley, and I would like the opportunity to once again serve as your probate judge. I had that privilege back many years ago. Actually, the first time I ran was 16 years ago. I served 2 terms, which time I was term limited out. My other opponent to my left here, his dad is now the probate judge, and he's term limited out. So I would like the opportunity to serve you once again. I am an attorney. A substantial percentage of my practice is probate and estate planning. Probably anywhere from 30 to 50% of what I do every day or every month involves those 2 areas of the law. It is a highly technical area of the law. With all due respect to the magistrate judges, while criminal law does have its technicalities, when you're dealing with sometimes multi-million-dollar estates in probate, it matters that you know the details and the ins and outs of the law, and it is a highly technical area. Now, what is a probate? I guess that's probably the first we need to answer. First of all, it has nothing to do with criminal law. It has nothing to do with probation. It is, in fact, a process by which we gather up the assets of a person who's passed away. We use the authority of the state through the appointment of an individual who will then transfer the property to the heirs of the estate after the bills have been paid. It's really an oversimplified version of it, but within that, there are a lot of, let's say, traps and snares that you need to be aware of. So during my term, I was the probate judge previously. For the last 2 to 3 years, I was the probate judge. I did the training. I organized it, I planned it, I recruited the people, I did the whole 9 yards. I was the mentor judge that people called, and even today, I'm the guy the lawyers call when they have technical questions with regard to probate in San Juan County. And while all experience in our life is important to our own development, it is not necessarily relevant to every job. Ms. Bill did serve honorably and well as a magistrate judge, but what they do in magistrate judge and probate are two entirely different things. And that experience makes a big difference between you're trying to recognize a technical defect in wills, when you have families feuding with each other over what's going on, who's going to get what, where, and how, or how it should be divided. I'm a professionally trained mediator, and while the probate judge does not try factual-based cases, the probate judge does help process things and hopefully get the issues resolved before then. I'm a lifelong Republican. I was Republican county chair here for 5 years during the period that we became a Republican majority county. Mike Larimer and I put that plan together and went through that result. I've been in national delegations and otherwise. But most of all, I think it's my background, my experience, my everyday life that would leads me to be the best candidate to be probate judge once again. And I appreciate your vote.
Thank you very much. Let's hear from our third candidate for probate judge this evening, Brant Thrower.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brant Thrower. As is Gary, I am an attorney here in town. As he said, my father's the current probate judge. He's being term limited out. And I think Gary touched on what we've talked about at some of these other meetings, which is what a probate judge does. There's a lot of misconceptions that probate judges are going to make law or we're going to have a great impact on how things happen on a national stage. And that's just simply not true. What either Gary or I or Stacy will be doing for you is getting your paperwork out quickly. At least that's the hope. Because what happens with a probate judge is we're the person that signs off on your letters testamentary or the other documents that let you go get into the safety deposit box, to let you go get control of the utilities to make sure that the house pipes don't freeze in the winter, things of that nature. It is a very basic job in terms of the day-to-day activities. It's signing papers. But as Gary was saying, it's an incredibly important job because if you don't have your papers signed quickly, if you don't have the ability to get into the safety deposit box or make sure the bills are paid or take care of the things when your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, when someone has passed away, it's a huge problem. And as Gary was touching on a little bit, it's not anything against Stacy. Stacy was an excellent magistrate judge, but as Gary said, they're very different jobs. And no probate judge can have any sort of contested case. When Gary talks about multi-million-dollar estates and families feuding, the feuds actually don't end up in front of probate court. Those go to district court, generally Judge Dowling. But what Gary, I think, was trying to touch on and what he and I would be able to do for you is to help people get to a place where those distributions are made appropriately under the will, or perhaps the wills are taken care of long before the disputes ever start. Because very often a lack of communication or a lack of understanding of very basic probate matters are the reason that we end up in district court and we end up taking up Judge Dowley's time arguing about things that should have been taken care of at a much lower level. And an attorney really does help that matter. With no disrespect to Gary, I'll say my father has done this job better than anybody else in this county's history for a very long time. He's there all the time. Our paperwork is done very quickly, and quite frankly, I'm a little sad he's leaving. But I'll be willing to take up that role, and I'll have your papers out quickly. I'll be able to answer those questions, and whether it's me or Gary, You need somebody that if they want to know what a family share is or a spousal share is or how to make sure that will transfers things appropriately, while we can't give advice, we can certainly point people in the right direction in a fashion that non-lawyers will not be able to do.
Thank you very much. First question now for our candidates for probate judge. Gary Risley, you'll answer first this time. The question is, what are the biggest challenges you'll face as a probate judge? You have 2 minutes.
Well, I had the privilege of serving before, and I think I'm pretty aware of a lot of those issues. One of the most difficult things is recognizing the unusual or the obscure. You have items that come through, and you look at it. There could be a problem with it. I've had wills that have conflicting provisions and stuff, and while that's not my decision to make how things would be handled, we have people that, hey, was this will executed properly? And if it was not, if we also have issues going on about who has the right to serve as the personal representative. Sometimes we have had 2 or 3 filings made by the same people wishing all to serve. And there's a structure and there's the things that go with that that you need to understand. And that kind of brings up, the dueling family members. Again, we can't litigate those issues, but I had meetings when I was probate judge. I'd haul them all into the county commission office, let them state what their concerns are, and at least as a judge, I can explain from my view what the law is and how I think it would work. If they continue to disagree, well, they're going to go off to district court and they're going to incur lots of attorney's fees. But there's things that I can bring in that level that I think would be important. The other thing is you have to make sure the system is efficient. As stated, it has to serve the public well. It's the people's court for probate. And I think I've fixed things in the first term that, my first term, that it's still being done. And I'll take another look at it and see what else we can improve when I get there.
Thank you very much. Mr. Thrower, same question.
In terms of challenges for the probate court, I really think the challenges are document related. How do you get that stuff in and out as quickly as possible to help those folks out? I have been in Farmington and San Juan County my entire life. I am the proverbial local boy of our 2 interlopers. And you see Gary and I grinning because we can talk shop about this sort of stuff all day long. We have cases where, as Gary was saying, everybody wants to be the personal representative, what most places call an executor or an executrix. And the best way to deal with stuff is with a probate judge who can explain the law. And you can't explain the law without a law degree. Stacy's got great common sense, as I said, excellent magistrate judge, but this is not that particular type of matter. This requires somebody who's got the specialized training that both Gary and I bring. And because I've been in San Juan County for a lot longer than Gary, I'll say that I would do that better.
But you were a baby when I came.
Well,
I've
that's
been here
true.
longer than both of you.
And Stacy has been here longer than, and I'm not touching anybody's age on this matter.
Good.
Certainly not Stacy. However, I will say that because I've been running nonprofits in town for years and involved in Boy Scouts and all of those sorts of things, I know a lot of these people. My father, as we all talked about, is the current probate judge. He's been an attorney here for 40 years. We know a bunch of these people, and I think that allows a little bit of the family dynamics that we might understand that others perhaps do not. And I think those are the sorts of things that, from a challenge standpoint, it's documented. You got to get the paperwork out, and you want to try to avoid any unnecessary legal expense. So many estates around here are not that big. People don't have a whole bunch of money to spend on, well, Gary and I. And as such, the more a probate judge can do, the better that is. And being available is one of those things.
Thank you very much. Stacy Beal, let's hear from you.
Thank you. So both of these gentlemen say that because they're probate attorneys, that makes them better qualified than I am. Walking door to door, campaigning in our neighborhood, in our community, I've been asked time and time again, how can someone that specializes in probate law also be the probate judge? How can you be the probate attorney and the probate judge? You know, it's either complex or it's simple. I'm not sure which one it is. According to Mr. Risley, everything's very complex. I served as a magistrate judge, which is a higher court, much more training. You're making life-altering decisions for people, and I have the experience in doing that. A probate judge is making life-altering decisions, but it's checking the paperwork, making sure everything is done efficiently and fairly. How can you be the attorney, the probate attorney, and the probate judge? It's a conflict of interest. Whether you want to say that it's not, it is. It's a conflict of interest. Thank you.
All right, thank you all very much. Let's go to the next question now. Mr. Thrower, you'll start with your answer first, please. And the question is, what specific goals would you like to accomplish as probate judge in San Juan County?
Well, I think I've hit the goals pretty hard. I want everybody's paperwork done quickly and efficiently. I do want to address Stacy's discussion about conflict of interest. One of the things that I think Gary will probably touch on as well, as attorneys, we understand conflict of interest from a professional standpoint. Not only is it not a conflict of interest, it never has been. We don't do our own cases. So the conflict of interest thing is simply a red herring. However, back to goals, let's get things done quickly and efficiently. Nobody wants to waste time or money, especially in these sorts of circumstances. Probate judges aren't dealing with the good news. We're generally dealing with the bad news. You know, the lost brother, the lost mother, whoever's passed away. So my goal would simply be to maintain the efficiency that that department's currently running with and keep that moving forward, while even more so than my dad, who can be a little strenuous at times, but then again, I'm his son. Gary knows him well. In a friendly and comforting fashion that'll help people out in their times of need.
Thank you very much. Stacy Beal, coming to you. You can answer my question or something entirely different.
I touched the goals.
I appreciate that. I would like the San Juan County Probate Court to have the reputation as being the most professional probate court in the state. We have wonderful people that work there. It's the county clerk's office that clerks for that position. With their help, we can make one of the most tragic events in your life, which is the event of losing a loved one, and make it as stress-free and easy as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gary Risley.
Well, thank you. The primary goal is to make sure that the public receives the best service possible. And the first time I was involved, I went through and I actually asked them how the process worked. I found that we were making triple entries of things because that's historically what had been done. I made the changes administratively that expedited those processes. We took in, instead of going through a thick paper pack, we now have it, we changed it to where it's on a computer-based word processing program. Those are the type of things that make it easy for people who are not involved in the legal system to do it. I also took the staff and I trained them personally, spent hours doing that. I would take them with me to the magistrate judge training programs to make sure that they were well trained. They had the same training as the magistrate judges in the state. I sent them out of my training budget with the county to CLE's continuing legal education for all those purposes, to help them understand how the process works from an attorney's point of view. Because we did that, we were able to greatly reduce the amount of time that it took the staff to meet with people, the number of people with their questions, the process smoothed out, and I want to continue that. And I want to look and see what's going on there. The other thing on the public service side is lawyers would call me, individuals would call me, they had a rush. I'd make special trips to Aztec just to process the paperwork and make sure it got out. My goal was always to have things out in a week or less. And so I think that we can continue that. I'd like to see, again, if anything else we can do to improve it with the advancement of the computer age as far as the electronic documentation and scanning. And I think I could take those business skills I've had over many years, along with my practice skills, and improve the department in the area a great deal. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. All right, it's a closing statement time for you candidates for probate judge. 2 minutes, and Stacy Beal will again begin with you.
Thank you, Scott. I have the experience that we need in the probate court. Like I said previously, I have over 30 years of experience. I've served as a magistrate judge. I've served as a judge pro tem. It's not a complicated position. Any complicated matters in probate court get filed in district court. Any type of litigation that's going to be pending will go to district court. Those multi-million-dollar estates that Mr. Risley was talking about are going to be filed in district court, not in probate court. Our prior probate judge, Lynette Justice, served honorably for many years. And not only did she not have a law degree, but she taught the law classes at the college on probate. What you need is someone that's smart and has a little common sense. You don't need an attorney, a probate attorney in that position. It is a conflict of interest. I would humbly ask for your support and your vote on June 5th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gary Risley, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. As I stated previously, experience and qualifications matter in any judgeship position. This is a Republican primary, so part of that is my Republican credentials might be relevant to you. I was the county chairman here for a long time. I've been a delegate to national conventions. I've been on the National Platform Convention. I've been a state officer. I was one of the people involved in the conservative movement to take the state party back many, many years ago from the moderate and liberal leaning folks that were there. And I've also been involved in a lot of community activities that I think everybody here up on the stage has been as well. So those are, I've been very, very involved in my community. I've done the job before. It is not a conflict, because if I am filing a probate, then I'm going to, for my particular clients, I will file it in district court. And I've worked that arrangement the first time. It was very successful. But that background experience, there's not much I haven't seen in doing this for 15 to 20 years now. And because of that, I'm also able to resolve issues so that they don't end up having to go to district court. The fact is, there are multi-million-dollar estates filed in probate court. I've filed them there. And so I know that they happen to go there. But there are issues that have to be recognized and understood. So again, a large percentage of my practice is planning, estate planning, and probate. Those background, that detail is, we're not talking about who's minimally qualified. We're talking about the most qualified people that you need to look for and vote for. And I think if you look at that, I think you'll find that I hope you understand that I am the most qualified person on the stage. I would appreciate your vote this coming Republican primary, June 5th. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And Brent Thrower, please.
Well, you guys have heard the bickering. I'll certainly concede that Gary's the most political animal up here. But I have to agree with him on a lot of subject matters. He and I have both filed multi-million-dollar probates in probate court all the time. You probably see the knowing looks between he and I with some of Stacy's comments about that. And that's simply because we have the experience to know what really goes on in those situations. And the reason that when you have a well-run probate office, certainly like the one we currently have, is that you can get those disputes handled beforehand because you have a probate judge that knows the law. You have local attorneys that can say, hey, the probate judge is going to bounce this right out of court, and you guys are going to end up in a big, expensive lawsuit in front of district court. That makes things go more smoothly. What I would like to see is that to continue. I think that our probate office works very well. Ms. Beal talked about it being the most professional in the state. I think you already have that. What you need is the ability to continue that. The reason our probate office works so well right now is we have an attorney probate judge. You need to have an attorney in that position. Is it required? No. Ms. Beal is absolutely correct. It is not in the authorizing documents or in the statute that it's required to have an attorney. But you don't want the bottom of what would work. You want the top. And when Ms. Beal talks about Lynette Justice, I was one of the people that would field the calls from Lynette Justice. I'm sure Gary fielded those calls. My father fielded those calls, and Lynette Justice was actually my paralegal for a long time. So I'm quite familiar with that situation. And I will simply tell you that an attorney's going to do you a better job, and you need to keep an attorney in that position. I'm the local boy. I've been here longer than everybody else, and I've been doing this for 15 or 20 years, as Gary has. I think you ought to vote for me. I think I will do the job that you need now.
Thank you. And thank you all very much. Let's have a round of applause for our candidates for probate judge in San Juan County. Thank you all very much. We'll move the microphones. Next, we'll switch gears a little bit and talk county commission. Mr. Bullock, Mr. Ferrari, we're coming in your direction. So you're very patient gentlemen. Thank you very much. So we'll go next to our County Commission District 1 candidates on the Democrat ticket, and we're thrilled to have all 4 of them with us this evening. And again, we'll start in alphabetical order, and you'll have 3 minutes for an opening statement, then 2 minutes for answers to the questions I have, and then another 2 minutes for a closing statement. And so we'll begin in alphabetical order with candidate Watona Vicente, please.
Good evening, everyone. Yat she Watona Vicente she ashienshle Nathana Bashishteen Hashklishin Dashache. So as a Navajo woman, my clans are Salt, and I'm born for the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, and my grandpas are from the Mud Clan. I'm originally from Shiprock, New Mexico, born and raised. I attended school there, but I graduated from Kirtland Central High School, and I received my bachelor's degree from Fort Lewis in sociology and human services. My employment experience consists of a certified nurse's aide, also a youth counselor, shelter bed counselor, also social worker, and currently I'm a program supervisor for the Shiprock office of Dene Youth in Shiprock. I believe that I have an abundance of experience working with youth, families, communities, and also working with our chapter communities in our area. And a lot of times, through my experience as a social worker, I would have to go out to the communities to visit the families, to investigate, because I was also a child protective service officer, and then I transitioned into a case manager. So it's very detrimental that you are knowledgeable of your resources that are available in your community, so that way you're able to identify which services your families are going to really truly benefit from. So as a case manager, a lot of the experience was working closely with each family, identifying the problem and the situation, and also sometimes we'd have to attend a lot of the court hearings, protection hearings, and even restraint hearings on behalf of these families. But so as I transitioned into as a program supervisor with the Office of Dene Youth, it really became apparent that it was truly important to know who your constituents are, your population. So on Navajo, we do have a lot of youth, which is the high population for our area. And also knowing who your elders are and their families, and again, the resources are very key. So from my experience, I am involved in a number of our community collaboration, and also I also sit on a number of committees that work with the communities directly. This evening I came in from a training as a facilitator that we have to attend to. So that was held in Albuquerque earlier today. But I truly feel like with my past experience, with the past 20 years, working with families and children in the communities, I feel that I hold a lot of experience and knowledge that I'm willing to share. And that's why I'm running for this position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wallace Charlie, we'll hear from you next, please.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank Chamber of Commerce and also the Farmington Professionals, Young Professionals, for sponsoring this forum. And want to thank each and every one of you for your interest to attending this evening. And my name is Wallace Charlie. I'm originally from Shiprock, and that's where I was raised. And I have a family. They're sitting here in the audience, my wife, and we have 4 children. The youngest of those 4 children is sitting in here with us. What I want to stress is experience does count. I served as the Navajo Nation Council for 12 years, and also on a committee, education committee, as a vice chairman of the education committee. So I was involved with a lot of schools And I was the one that sponsored the amendment to Navajo education laws, Title 12. And that's to improve the education on the Navajo Nation. Also, I served previously for 8 years on the San Juan County Commission. And I'm in this position currently. I've been in here almost 4 years now. And also, I serve as the chairman of the Navajo Labor Commission, which is quasi-judicial committee on the Navajo Nation that deals with a lot of laws that related to the employment. And with all these experience, the years that I put in, I believe that I'm qualified to run for re-elections. And that's the reason why I come before you. Those of you that are from District 1, I ask you to vote for me for position number 3. Experience does count, and I want to thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, let's hear from Zachariah George, please.
Good evening, everyone. Yat es nana. Shaya Zachariah George Yanishia. Also in late Selkaide Eya Ayesido Nasha. Good evening, San Juan County. I have a cold first and foremost, so bear with me. I'm not drugged up yet, so. 2 years ago, I ran for county clerk. It was 2 years ago, and then I was at the age of 21 when I ran for county clerk. I'm running for commissioner now. I'm at the age of 24. And the reason why I decided to run was because I've sat on the sidelines of politics. I'm a huge fan of politics. I sat on the sideline of politics and no improvement within District 1. And you think to yourself, if you have all the experience, then you would push yourself forward and try to do more for your people. And with that said, I worked for Office of the President and Vice President, the Navajo Nation. I worked during the Shelley and Jim administration, and I've also served at the McKinley County Assessor's Office for quite some time. And then I was also part of Farmington's Public Relations. That was the time Bob Campbell was the city manager. So I'm very young, but this is why I came here, because we're all young professionals. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you guys again so much. And I always say the younger generation is ready to take over. All the older people sit aside. It's our turn to rise up and change and bring a better future for our younger generations to come. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Glogene Totocini is next, please.
Good evening. I'm a retired educator. I taught family and consumer sciences for 14 years and 11 years as a principal. So I know about power. I have power in the classroom. I have power in my school building with a staff of 50 and student enrollment of 700 students. And the best grades I ever worked with was grades 4, 5, and 6. They're very impressionable. They listen to you. Now, junior high, they'll challenge you, and so will the high school kids. But that grade level was the best to work with. After I retired, I decided I'll run for public office. And I ran for San Juan County Commission, and I was the first Navajo woman to serve on the San Juan County Commission. And I did that for 8 years. At the same time, I ran for Navajo Tribal Council, and I served 1 term there. Imagine holding 2 elected offices. But hey, women, we can do it. We run households, so I help run the government. At the time when I was on the county commission, Tony Atkinson was a county commissioner, and he mentored me and got me involved with New Mexico leadership. Prior to that, I was a member and graduate of New Mexico leadership, and I took a look at the whole county, and I thought, how can I help serve? Now, when I was on the county, I never got to be chair. I was so proud of Margaret McDaniels for becoming chair. So one of my accomplishments is I would like to be chair if I win. What's so scary about having Glogene Totocini as chair of San Juan County? And she'd be probably the only Democrat on there serving with 4 Republicans. But there might be 2 Democrats serving on there. San Juan County also allows us to serve on nonprofit committees like Northwest Seniors. I served on there, San Juan County Museum, Total Behavioral Health, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I was chair of the Northwest Council of Governments. So I do have leadership ability, I have 8 years' experience, and I think I can do it. Thank you.
Thank you all very, very much. Let's go to our first question now. Mr. Charlie, you'll start with the first answer here of this question, and that is, how can we prepare for the economic impacts of the potential closing of the San Juan generating station and the reduction in generation at Four Corners Power Plant? 2 minutes to answer that question.
Okay, thank you. You know, a lot of times, some people would say, I did this, I did that. For me, it's always we. There's other 4 county commissioners that I work very closely with. And I can tell you that the county has been taking steps to ensure stability and planning in the event we see the closure occur. We're looking at other options of bringing in other industries or additional power plants and evaluating very closely what we can do to expand jobs and protect those jobs as well. Our number 1 priority should be to protect those people that work at the plant, the mine, to ensure that they have a job. But we also working to ensure that stability, property tax is in place. I also believe that trying to create a team approach, working with the Navajo Nation, consolidated schools, and all other local schools within the county and the other area, regional area, to ensure that we're partnering and we're communicating clearly, concise information that is consistent among all parties. And that would be my response. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Same question. Moving next to Zachariah George for your answer, please.
So, I'm not really familiar with this part, but I'm going to go ahead and answer in the best way I possibly can. I wrote it down right here really quick. So I think one of the ways that we definitely could prepare ourselves is by looking at other resources and asking our allies in our counties as well, McKinley and other counties that are surrounding us, for suggestions. But I always say that Farmington has good sites of building tourism. I think that was one of the good things that would help a lot. And the other one would be asking the state of New Mexico to pass legislation where we can actually tax our own natural gas, instead of just burning it, which is also a good idea. And we can also look at different resources as far as good ideas with the generating station and the Four Corners power plant.
Thank you very much. Glogine Totticini, same question.
PMM is proposing a future energy portfolio, and they want public input. So that's going to be coming up, and, you know, look how many are here tonight. On that night, it would be wonderful if a numerous amount of people showed up, because they want to take a look at the future of energy here in the Four Corners area and in the state. What's so nice about our area is we have San Juan College, we have Navajo Technical University, we have Diné College, Highlands University has classes up here, Fort Lewis College is to the north of us. We can have our workers get retrained. I came across a gentleman who had retired from La Plata mine when it closed, and he said, they allowed us to retrain, and he said, I went into IT, and he was working at a school. So those things can happen, but I think we need diversity in how we can provide this energy out here. Solar is coming, wind energy is coming, and I know the environmental people who like, you know, something to be done about greenhouse gases and carbon in the air. They are very happy that things are going to be changing. Also, tourism is another one. We have a beautiful area here. We need to tap into that even more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Watona Vicente, please.
Okay, so as a county commissioner, I truly believe it's important to carry out your role because you're a liaison as well as an advocate. So in this particular area, with the plants closing, I've actually spoken with a number of employees who had expressed their concerns. The comment was that people are jumping ship. And so what was added to that was, right now we do have a lot of employees who are leaving the plants for other areas of employment. So with the higher-ups, I believe there's 30% that are higher-ups who are used to the move to transfer from station, power plant to power plant. So I believe that they kind of have a plan already set. 40% are of our Navajo people who for District 1 is a huge concern. And then the 30% come from throughout the county. We do have various resources in our community that we could tap into. One is like really sitting down with the committee people, trying to get a better idea of what their plans are for their employees. What type of retirement packages are there? Are there early retirement? Are they going to be able to carry over their benefits? Or are they going to be able to be paid out for that? And also resources, like we have other oil, gas plants that they may be able to transfer to, as well as the retraining, their education, because, you know, we are able to go to school at any age to change what our goals are, what our trades are. So that could be another thought. And then the other option would be job fairs that we could collaborate with other entities within the county to see who's willing to hire a lot of these experienced employees. But definitely, as a county commissioner, you would have to lend your support to let your constituents, your people know that you are there to support them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question, Mr. George, you're going to start with our answers on this question. And it is, how do we expand our revenue base in order to provide more water, wastewater, and road infrastructure in San Juan County?
Okay. We would request New Mexico legislators to pass a law that would allow to tax for our natural gas instead of burning it off. For other infrastructures, we ask our New Mexico delegation in Congress to ask for improvement projects such as the Tiger Grant from National Highway Safety Transportation, and worked with the assessor's office to see if property value land ownership, and as well as to see how much, the values are, and also work with the treasurer's office to take a look at whether current investments are paying off for the county. And if all else fails, I think the only thing that we possibly can do is raise property tax. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Glogene Todicini, same question.
At the federal level, they've been talking about more funds going into infrastructure maintenance and repair. So if money comes down from the federal government, then it goes to the state, and that's where local governments can apply and obtain money for their infrastructure repair and maintenance here in the area. There's that possibility. If we think of revenue, how do we get money? We don't have a major company here like Intel. We had the Four Corners Power Plant and PNM, but they're going to be out of here in a couple more years. They still do provide jobs right now, but it's going by the wayside. So how do the Tri-City plus the Navajo communities come together? Because what we're looking at more is regionally, how do we take care of our citizens here? And I think we can work together to solve this problem and get more revenue here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next to answer that question, Watona Picenti, please.
Okay, so in regards to revenue, I guess we would really have to be creative, putting our creative hats on. With NAPI up here, they utilize a lot of water, and they do bring in a lot of other entities that come out. Like during the fall, they have a pumpkin patch, and then they have others that harvest alfalfa and corn that they send out to all areas of the United States. I would really strongly encourage them, as through the county, to increase their costs that they do charge out there. As far as the water goes, the same thing would happen. We do have a number of water committees in our area, because, like, for instance, in Shiprock, the worry is like, well, the county gets most of the water, and by the time Shiprock gets any water, it's just whatever's left over. So I think definitely we would have to introduce bills during the election year to increase either the taxes or the fees that we are going to impose on a lot of the entities that come in through, either through NAPI or other natural resources out here, because we do have farming areas, and I guess it would be good to encourage them to look for that too, to rent out the farms and to see what kind of revenues that we can draw from that. And also, as far as road infrastructure, definitely it would be communication with the state, because the state does get revenue and they do get funding for those types of construction. So we definitely would have to work with a variety of entities at the state and federal levels to sit down and talk to them about how we can increase our revenues, as well as any profits that should come to our county, especially in District 1. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wallace Charlie, same question.
Thank you. Okay, working very closely with the Four Corners Economic Development. That would be the goal that I would approach, because in the Four Corners Economic Development, we have some of the best people in the state, even I would say the best people across the nation. We have our own resource here. So working very closely with economic development in looking at alternative industry to come into San Juan County. Also to diversity over economy with additional property tax space. It will create that stability to ensure that our infrastructure will be maintained. Also, as county officials, we will also work very closely with the Navajo Nation in setting up agreement to work collaboratively to help fix, develop, construct, and enhance their roads. And the San Juan County, the county commissioner, recently worked very closely with Representative Sharon Klosch-Chilich. and we've developed an infrastructure master plan. It's already ongoing. The money will be there, and we're working on it. So with that, I will go ahead and conclude regarding this question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It is time for your closing statements, candidates for County Commission, and we'll begin with Glogene Totticini. You have 2 minutes, and in your closing statement, could you please include your mission statement for being a San Juan County Commissioner, District 1, if elected?
I've always liked the statement that whatever we decide, we do for the good of the many, not the one. That's my mission statement, because, you know, Kirkland recently incorporated, and they're trying to get more businesses there, because with more businesses there, they get more tax money and they can build their community. We have to work together. I'm also worried about a lot of the businesses that are closing, and I think Farmington is working very hard to renovate downtown area. I always like Andrea's bookstore. I used to like to go in there and have a sandwich, and it's the small businesses that are really important. I know that when I travel with in NACO, the National Association of Counties, there was a place that they never allowed franchises to come into their community because they wanted all the small businesses to run for the stuff for goods and services. So I think we have a lot of potential here, and I know you have candidates that are well experienced, and they have good ideas, and a lot of ideas will come from you, the citizens. So I think all you need to do is reach out and notify us, and whoever becomes county commissioner, you can work with them, because you have a lot of ideas out there, and this is your community, and we live in the Four Corners area, and we're experiencing a severe drought right now. So hopefully one day we'll have nice irrigation sprinkler systems like they do in Dolores, Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next closing statement comes from Watona Vicente, please.
Okay, so working with all chapter community schools, which include the BIE, public, and the charter schools in our area, and also collaborating with all other San Juan County districts, their county commissioners, listening to the need of the people, developing an action plan, and empowerment of action is my mission statement, because you have to be inclusive of everybody. You have to be able to listen and to have a discussion about what their needs are, and then also including these individuals in their action plan. That way, they have a sense of ownership. That's the only way that a lot of these actions carry through, is because if you come in and say, well, this is what you're going to do and this is how you're going to do it, a lot of times there's no buy-in. So you really have to give ownership to your constituents and encourage them and offer a lot of solutions. And once we identify those solutions, then we can move forward with the action. And for me, that's what I do. That's really my job as a facilitator. And it's just helping a lot of these communities really seek out what their needs are, what their strengths are, and then to work with their weaknesses and then to move forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Wallace Charlie. Your closing statement, please.
Thank you. One of the missions always been for me is to listen to the voters, the constituents, and the bottom line is, what is the interest of the constituents? That's how I normally make my decisions, and it still continues to be that way. And I also like to get Navajo Nation and the San Juan County government in a good working relationship, and we've been doing that. The county has been taking their roads equipment across the reservation, do some minor roads because of those agreements that were put in place. I will continue to do that. And also, the people here in Farmington, We also come in here to shop, to spend money. Let's all work as a good neighbor. I will continue to see to that. And one of the best people that I've worked with is the county employees. They're the best people that I've seen for a long time. They try to improve themselves, the working relationships for all people. So, and also the San Juan County Commissioners. There's 5 of us. 4 of them are Republicans, and I'm the lone Democrat sitting on the commissioner. But it doesn't mean anything to me. I work with them. They're pretty good. They listen to me. I listen to them for the interest of you, the people. So therefore, I would consider running for re-election, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we will also hear from Zachariah George. Please, your closing statement.
I know I know that politics is based on experience. And I may look young and clueless and something like that, but you want to know what? I always tell people that in order to have experience, you got to put yourself in there. You got to step into that position. And myself and Watona here, we're fairly new to politics, so it's very humbling and an honor to run against 4 different individuals. But one of my main mission statement is to really improve on relations between the county, the state, and our own Navajo Nation, and also to work in to bring public safety awareness not only in District 1 but throughout the entire county. And lastly is to really be there and to be the spokesperson for my community, for District 1, and to really work for San Juan County to strive forward and creating strong relationships and balance within the county. So on June 5th, which early voting is open right now, so on June 5th, I humbly ask for your vote. I'm position number 2. I'm the only one that has the longest name on the ballot. You can't miss me. So your vote would be appreciated, and have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let's have a round of applause for all of our candidates for San Juan County Commission, District 1. All right, we will move some microphones here, and next up are our Republican candidates for San Juan County Sheriff. Audience, how you doing? You to stretch? You doing all right? Okay, all right. Here we go. Again, we will start alphabetically. Opening statements, gentlemen, 3 minutes, and then the questions, you'll have 2 minutes to answer, followed by the closing statements. Tommy Bolak, we'll start with you, and if you could, during your opening statement, also include why you're qualified for the position of San Juan County Sheriff.
Okay, I'm honored to been asked to be here this evening to talk to you a few words, maybe some good, maybe some wrong, but I've been a conservative Republican. I'm running for the San Juan County Sheriff's Office and have been basically since I first went over and registered. Also, been breathing San Juan County air for, half of the county's life. So I've been here a while. I went to school here, from grade school all the way to high school, graduated in 1969, and went on to New Mexico State University to earn a bachelor's degree in engineering. I've got a business experience, have had for over 30 years. I've formed a corporation, an LLC, and a foundation that deals both in oil and gas, ranching, farming, museums, and preserving the future so that what has been built here will stay to give back to the community. Also, in business, I was responsible for rebuilding the entire Aztec electric utility system. I was their director for a little over 6 years. Did everything from design and planning clear up to accounting and scheduling of energy. Very proud to win an award for that work, for excellence was given by the American Public Power Association in Washington, D.C., and was very proud of that award. So I've got business experience, which is definitely going to be needed. I've got a theme and a thing that I've done for all my life is I want to give back to the community. and I have for decades, the college, through Cancer Treatment Center, through FFA, 4-H, you name it, it's just to name a few things. And I very, very much appreciate law enforcement. It's one of the things that helps keep us where we safe and keeps us what we have here. And with that, I had done a little bit of work in law enforcement. It's not a career, of course, and you don't have to be a career law enforcement to be elected sheriff. However, I did go through the Reserve Academy classes and done thousands of hours of volunteer work, along with a lot of ride-ons along. So, like I say, the sheriff's office is an administrative position. It needs business experience. From your undersheriff down are the folks that actually do the law enforcement and are certified. And crime is a real issue in San Juan County. We have burglaries, we have drugs, we have DWIs. They're deep concerns. In fact, did a poll about, it was this last fall, of citizens to what their concerns were, and a group of them, about over half of them, felt the crime was on the increase and was something to be very, very concerned about. So there's definitely work to do in the sheriff's office. I'd like to grab a hold of it and do some of that work and be your next San Juan County Sheriff.
Thank you very much. Shane Ferrari, let's hear from you. Opening statement, please.
Is this on here?
There you go.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank all of you for being here. I do greatly appreciate it. I did find out that the word young professional has nothing to do with age. It has to do with young of heart, so we're all safe. That was good. And for those of you watching online, it's a packed crowd here today. Thank goodness you stayed home. Seats are pretty slim. So a little about myself. I'm a Christian and a member of Pinion Hills Church. I'm a lifetime resident of San Juan County and very proud to have 7 generations right here with us. I'm also a husband to my lovely wife of 22 years, Brandy. We have 2 children who are in the audience with Dad right now. I'm a lifetime conservative Republican, and for the last 20 years, I've honorably served our community as a member of the San Juan County Sheriff's Office. I do have some community involvement besides law enforcement. I'm a board member with the Fraternal Order of Police. Went through Leadership San Juan, class of 2012, where I still seat as a alumni board member. I'm also a member of the Hospital Corporation Board. As far as my education, I'm a 1995 graduate of Farmington High School, go Scorps. 1997 graduate of the very first San Juan County Sheriff's Office Reserve Academy. I'm a 1999 graduate of the New Mexico Basic Police Academy. In 2012, I was able to accomplish a big career goal by attending the FBI National Academy 250th session. While there, I was also voted section representative. I'm only one of 3 New Mexican lawmen who have ever had the opportunity to hold that position. I hold all 5 New Mexico certifications. I'm one of 2 current law enforcement officers here in San Juan County that can say that. And I have over 3,000 advanced hours of law enforcement experience. As far as my law enforcement experience, during my time with the Sheriff's Office, through hard work and dedication, I've had the opportunity to serve in every division, from patrol to narcotics, detectives, and also our civil division. I've also held several leadership roles, having held ranks as far as a police instructor, field training officer, sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. I'm currently the undersheriff and CEO of the Sheriff's Office under Sheriff Ken Christensen, where my duties consist of policy, budget, personnel, and overall operations. Well, why am I running for sheriff? Well, it obviously seems like an easy transition, being everything I've done to move into sheriff, but I love my community. I love the San Juan County Sheriff's Office. I've spent half of my life protecting our families with some of the bravest men and women I've ever known. I believe that law enforcement is a calling. I believe I'm called upon once again to be your San Juan County Sheriff. Being sheriff is about experience. You were all given possibly this definition of sheriff. You won't find the word administrator or administration one time in this. It is a law enforcement position. That's what I bring to the table, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you both very, very much. Now let's go to the questions, and we'll begin with Shane Ferrari with your answer. You'll have 2 minutes. The question is, unlike other law enforcement positions, the sheriff is elected by the people of this community. If elected, what will you do to protect the people of San Juan County and their rights?
Thanks, Scott. Upholding citizens' constitutional rights and enforcing the law is a delicate balance. Nightly, we watch the news and we see where law enforcement agencies are being criticized for misconduct and use of force, constitutional violations, and breaches of trust. Some agencies have gone as far as being put under consent decrees, which is where the federal government comes and takes hold of an agency. Albuquerque PD is a fine example of that, and it's costing taxpayers millions of dollars. I believe we can do both these things, protect rights and protect our citizens in 5 ways. First of all, it has to do with philosophy. The Sheriff's Office has had a long-standing tradition of being a constitutional Sheriff's Office. I also believe it has to do with hiring the right people. We have the highest standards in San Juan County when it comes to being a deputy with the San Juan County Sheriff's Office, and hiring only those with high moral character, integrity, and commitment. They have to love their job more than their job loves them. Through training, extensive training, we're very fortunate to have our own academy here so we can focus on our community's issues. Leadership, making sure that we scrutinize our daily activities, always looking at several different levels of how we can become more efficient and effective, and making sure that balance is being maintained. I also believe in transparency. We have to be accountable to our public. We have to admit when we make a mistake. The community will forgive a mistake, but they will not forgive a breach of trust. We offer several programs at the Sheriff's Office so we can partner with our community and they realize that they become part of the Sheriff's Office and they can clearly see our activities and the work that we're doing for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bullock, same question.
Okay, I'm indeed thankful for the fact that the Sheriff's Office is, and the Sheriff himself is the only law enforcement official that can be elected from the public that the office actually serves, and that is a citizen. You do not necessarily have to have law enforcement training, and there's definitely a citizen's mindset in allowing somebody like to participate in being sheriff. And I hope it stays that way, because it is indeed a public office. One of the big rights that I believe all citizens have, well, the Constitution's there, but the citizens have the right to be safe. And in doing that, the crime is against that. Burglaries, drugs, DWIs. There's a set team that was established by Sheriff Christensen in his first term that was put aside for the moment. I believe that team is very important. It was able to improve a lot of things, and I think it needs to come back. And as far as the Constitution goes, the Second Amendment is a very important one. I actually hold a Class 3 firearms stamp and a federal explosives license, so I'm fully aware of how dangerous some of these things can be in the wrong hands. But to keep guns out of law-abiding citizens' hands would be absolutely wrong. And of course, last but not least is the Fourth Amendment. Law enforcement treads a real fine line, as Shane has said. You have to be very careful. It's invasive by nature anyway, but you have to be very careful to be able to protect those rights of privacy at the same time and be able to give probable cause and be able to articulate the reasons that you do it. And those freedoms are dear to all of us, including me, and that's it for now.
All right. Thank you both very much. Next question, Mr. Bullock, we'll start with you for the answer. It has been stated in the press that finances are a significant burden on the Sheriff's Office. What other constraints is the Sheriff's Office facing, and how can they be overcome?
Well, there's quite a few of those things that are going to stay as far as money goes, because that is a big issue. Law enforcement does not have a bottom line that says there's a profit, not directly anyway. Indirectly there is through increased participation in business, tax base, if you have good law enforcement, so it does pay a dividend, but indirectly. The tax authorities realize this. I believe the wise use of money by looking at everything and making sure that it's efficiently spent is very important. Also, grants are very important. We need to be able to ease this particular financial problem we got, because it is one of our biggest restraints. The personnel quality is becoming difficult to actually find people that can qualify to be sheriff's deputies, because that is a very specialized field that takes very special individuals. Also, the schools are placing burdens on the sheriff's office, which a lot of that actually belongs to the state for securing the campuses, being able to hire the individuals for security, but the sheriff's office will be more than glad to train those people, and so they can coordinate very well with law enforcement. In cooperation also with the Navajo Nation. It hasn't been, it's an hindrance. We need to cooperate with those folks. get them on the same page, invite them to training, and work with them, because crime has no boundaries in San Juan County in my mind. Also the Fed, as far as the illegal aliens, the drugs. We need to work with them. And in fact, in the drug fight, I'd like to have a K-9 unit formed. Be very important. And one little final thing to ease the burden, I plan on donating my salary back to the sheriff's office for needs that would be very important there. And so in doing that, I think we can ease the burdens and try to move forward more efficiently.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ferrari, same question.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Glad to. Of course. It's been stated in the press that finances are a significant burden on the sheriff's office. What other constraints is the sheriff's office facing, and how can they be overcome?
Okay. So finance. Finance is not only a burden to the county and obviously to the sheriff's office, and all of our constraints are directly connected to funding. There are very few federal grants left. Very few state grants left. You recall, remember our GREAT program and DARE programs, and all these programs that we had by our federal government are no longer around. There are very few available. Even our own state, we don't have grants. 2 years ago, they took it upon themselves to take our LEPF funding, our Law Enforcement Protection Fund money, and put it into the state coffers to solve their own budgetary issues. But we do participate in all those that we do qualify for. The sheriff's office has been in budgetary constraints now for over 7.5 years. We've had a stagnant budget. Roughly 85% of our budget goes to personnel and benefits. That leaves us very little to work with, but we do a fine job of that. The sheriff's office, seeing this coming, started the Sheriff's Office Foundation, which is a 501c3, and to really help with our shortfalls. That program saves the county taxpayers tens of thousands of dollars and helps out in programs such as our Reserve Deputy Program. Helps us augment our forces with 30 deputies helping out during large-scale events, the weekends when we have high call volume, and anytime we need them, such as holidays. I believe that the cities will continue to annex in more and more county property. With more property they annex in, that's less area we have to cover on patrol, and we can move those resources back in to special investigative units. Now, it's been mentioned that I personally got rid of the special enforcement team. That was a matter of necessity and a resource allocation. After the wake of the school shooting, our citizens demanded more school safety. The 4 deputies that were assigned to special enforcement team were put into school resource officer positions to help train and protect our children. We hope one day with more money that'll become available once again. Thank you.
Thank you both very much. All right, gentlemen, time for closing statements. You'll have 2 minutes, and please include, if you can, your mission statement for the San Juan County Sheriff's Office if elected. And Mr. Ferrari, we'll start with you.
Sure. Thanks, Scott. I believe the sheriff's election is about experience. The sheriff's position is not an administrative position. It's a law enforcement position. Think back to the tragedy that happened December 7th at our Aztec school shooting. We not only relied on our law enforcement leaders to provide the training that Aztec received that helped them respond in the way that they did. The response of our law enforcement officials being there took our leadership. The aftermath, the investigation, making sure those children were received back to their parents, that all happened because of good law enforcement leadership and experience. My focus for the next 4 years will be on child safety. More that has to do with school resource officers, preparing our schools for school violence, internet crimes against children, and also putting more resources into Region 2 narcotics, which is our local task force that combats methamphetamine and opiates. As far as my mission statement, the Sheriff's Office will remain dedicated to preserving the peace and upholding your constitutional rights. We believe the community and law enforcement are one and rely upon each other in the protection of life and of property. Our focus will remain on responding to the needs of those we serve. We will conduct ourselves with a high level of professionalism and integrity. We will uphold the law in a fair and equal manner. Daily, we will strive to make San Juan County better for our future. Again, my name is Shane Ferrari, and I would appreciate your vote on June 5th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bolak. Your final statement.
Okay, again, crime is real, and some have made it into a joke. It's not a joke at all. Burglaries are up 30% in the last 3 years. There's roughly 850 associated gang members in the area. representing a little over 30 different gangs, not all of them active, but the potential is definitely there. Drugs in Region 2 in the last 5 years, they've confiscated over 90 pounds of methamphetamine and almost 400 pounds of marijuana. Is that possibly the tip of the iceberg? I feel it really is. Drugs are a problem, and the public is certainly aware of it and concerned about it. DWIs are up, endangering our people, highways. It needs to be changed. Got over 12,000 outstanding warrants in San Juan County, over 400 felony warrants. We definitely need to be targeting these things along with everything else that's done on the calls with the sheriff's office. It's very important. Special enforcement team to me is a big, big issue, and we need to be going for it. And my basic philosophy is to work to make San Juan County and the community safer while spending taxpayer money efficiently. I don't need the job, and I can't be bought. To kind of sum up here, basically the laws are not made by law enforcement. They're actually enforced. The legislators make them. We have to work with the legislators to get fair and equitable laws and penalties to be easy to enforce. Policy within the sheriff's office can change a little bit more rapidly as we work to become more proactive and less reactive. And finally, philosophy can change overnight with a new sheriff. And I'm Tommy Bolak, and I would like to take on that challenge and be your next San Juan County Sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's have a round of applause for our two candidates for San Juan County Sheriff. Once again, everybody, thank you for coming, and thank you to the Farmington Young Professionals and the Farmington Chamber of Commerce for putting together tonight's forum. We actually got it accomplished in the 2 hours that we promised you, so that's pretty amazing to me. How about another round of applause for all these candidates who are running for elected office? Thank you all for coming. Despite the packed house, we invite you to tell your friends about the forum. There is video being made tonight from San Juan Safe Communities. That video, I imagine, will be shared on social media in a day or so. And so please share this with your friends who couldn't be here, who you feel need to be informed about the candidates who are running. I'm Scott Micklin with KSJE. We are a non-commercial radio station, and that means no political ads. You're welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming.